So first thing I want you to understand is that there are infinite numbers of timelines that exist, okay? So you can call them parallel realities, different realities, whatever you want to call them. We're going to talk about them as timelines, okay? There are infinite numbers of timelines, infinite, okay? So here you are on your current timeline, and you don't really like what's going on here. So you want to change your timeline? What do? You do a process by going in your 4D, in your imagination, whatever manifestation method you use, okay, and you create your desired reality. So now you have jumped to this timeline where your desired reality is going to unfold. So one thing I want to pause and explain to you here is that in these timelines, like I said, it's a different reality, but things can look the same. For example, the people in your life can look the same. They can be, your mom will be there, your boyfriend will be there, your brother will be there, but it is a different version of them because infinite realities exist with infinite versions of people, infinite versions of jobs, infinite versions of you. So you are on this timeline, and the first thing is that because things or people might look the same, you might not realize that you're on this other timeline. But this is also why you can have somebody act one way 1 second, and then the next day they can be a completely different person because you shifted timelines through your thought, through your imagination, through your creative power. Okay, so now you're on this timeline. Now this is how we sabotage, is because we think that everything looks the same, because sometimes there is a time delay from this timeline to appear from this timeline. And how I like to explain it is, imagine you are writing a movie, okay, and there's a script change. You need to make sense of that script change in the story, right? So sometimes there's a bit of a gap here where you are just trying to make sense, make the timelines blend together. Sometimes you will immediately experience a timeline shift, and that's freaky, but a lot of the times this is what happens. So what happens is people see their 3D looking the same as their old timeline, and they think, oh, nothing's changed. They think the same thoughts. They go back to the versions of themselves that they were. They see the people in their lives as the old version, and guess what? You just jump right back to this timeline and then are back to this story playing out. So when you create in your 4D, you are on a different timeline. Whatever you desire is given immediately. You're on a different timeline, and you have to just stick in that timeline with whatever creative process you used and give it time. Like I said, the 3D is old. This is old. It's just playing out until the shift appears in your new reality. So when you doubt, you question, you wonder what's happening, you get triggered by your 3D, all you're doing is continuously jumping back to the timeline that you don't want to experience. So if you stay in your 4D creation, okay, you stay that version of you, you stay in the mindset, you stay knowing that whatever you created is done and you're on that timeline, and you just give it time to play out and appear in a way that makes sense, then that timeline will appear. Just don't get in the way by going back and forth with your mindset and your frequency. Also, be very prepared for people to show up completely differently, things to show up completely differently. It is pretty crazy what happens when you jump timelines, so just stick with it.